The National Broadcasting Company takes pleasure in presenting Mr. Boris Karloff in the third of a special series of anniversary Lights Out broadcasts. Tonight, at the urgent request of hundreds of listeners, we bring you a repeat broadcast of a strange play which you have chosen as a highlight of all the Lights Out series, Cat Wife.
Lights out. Everybody.
Don't go. I don't want to be alone.
What do you mean alone? Your husband's in the next room, ain't he?
Oh, that guy. What does he know about having fun? Work, work, work. It makes me sick where I've never been sick before. Oh, come on. You stick around. Let's have some more fun. You can stop me. Oh, yes. Those marbles are
For heaven's sake, Linda.
Well, speak of the devil. Hiya, Johnny boy. Come on in. The water's fine. Only it ain't water.
For heaven's sake, I'm trying to work.
Oh, go away. Go away. You're spoiling my party. Throw him out of here, Kenny. He's only my husband.
Get out of here, you. Take that husband with you. Come on, come on.
No, wait. Don't listen to him. It's my house. It's my house. You kick them out. My friends. You kick them out.
Linda, haven't you any consideration at all? I've begged you, pleaded with you to try to keep these people out of the house while I'm getting some work done. And you persist in doing just the opposite.
You kick them out. My friends.
Yes, I've kicked them out, and I'll do it again every time I find them here. They're no good. You've given me your word time and time again to give them up.
I'll call them back. I'll call them all back. You can't tell me what to do. Not me. They're my friends. Mine. I'd give a dozen of you for one of them.
All right, Linda. If that's the way you feel, I guess you and I have finally come to the end of the road. You haven't got a grain of loyalty in you. All I ask is a little peace and quiet in my own home, and I can't even have that.
Go away. Go away.
Night after night, you and those people, yowling and screaming like a pack of alley cats. And you the worst of all. I'm through, Linda. I'm through with you for good.
Oh, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not.
Keep away from me. Keep away. Oh, Linda.
See? You're not through with me at all. You'll never be through with me. Never.
Linda.
Now, let me go. Let me go. I don't want you, you fool. You're not through with me. I'm through with you.
No, Linda.
I'm tired of you. Do you hear me? I'm tired of you. I'm going to get so far away from that smug face of yours that I couldn't see it with a telescope.
Linda, my wife.
Your wife. Why do you think I married you?
I thought you loved me.
I married you because I was sick of working in a two-bit barber shop, because I was sick of living in a hall bedroom wearing bargain sale dresses. I wanted dough, plenty of it, all I could get. And you were the best chance to get it that came my way.
No, Linda, you did love me. You must have loved
I
me.
loved you about as much as that canary up there loved you, too. I told myself I'd stay with you a year. Divorce you, stick you for plenty of alimony, and then get out.
But we've been married 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. Because you fooled me, that's why.
I fooled you.
Yeah. Huh. You started to make a lot of money. More money than I ever thought you could make. So you're giving me the air, huh?
No, Linda, I love you. I'll always love you. I didn't mean what I said.
Well, I did.
Oh, Linda, don't leave me. You're no good. I know you're no good, but heaven help me, I love you. I'll never love anybody else.
Get out of my way.
No, I won't let you go. You've got to stay.
Your hands off me.
You're no good. You've cost me my self-respect. But you'll stay with me. You'll stay with me, or I'll cut you off without a chance. You won't get a dime. Not a dime. Stop that. Stop shouting.
Oh, you Sam. You fat-headed Sam.
Stop that.
You're going to cut me off without a cent, are you? Oh, you fool. I've got everything that belongs to you now. You hear me? Everything.
What are you talking about? What are you saying?
This house. It's in my name, isn't it? The car. It's in my name, isn't it?
I know, but... Oh, no, you wouldn't.
Oh, wouldn't I? Well, listen to this, my darling husband. I cleaned out the bank account yesterday.
No.
Every cent. I won't be in the street. You will. Now, this is my house. Get your things and get out of here.
I'll kill you.
No, stop.
I'll kill you.
You come here. Let me go. Please go. You touch me again and I'll tear your eyes out.
You cat.
Get out of my way.
That's what you are, a cat. A big, white, heartless cat. You think like one, you screech like one, you claw like one. You even look like one. Cat, that's what you are, a great white cat. I didn't marry a woman. I married a cat.
Keep it up. Keep it up. You're doing swell.
Laugh at me. Go on, laugh at me. I've got a cat. A sneaking, yowling cat.
Listen up there. You stop saying it.
A cat. A cat. You hear me? A cat.
Stop staring at me like that. Stop staring at me. John, what's happening to me? John, my head, I can hardly see. John, help me. John.
Linda.
What are you staring at? What are you staring at? Wait a minute.
Linda. Linda.
John, you've got to control yourself. Everything will be all right.
What have I done?
John, please, pull yourself together. You're not entirely to blame for what happened.
What will I do? I did it. I'm to blame.
Stop talking like that. It's preposterous to say you're to blame. She was hysterical, John. The suggestion that she was a cat caught her in an unguarded moment and resulted in a temporary neurosis.
Oh, Doctor, she's got to get well. She's got to.
Oh, she'll be all right. A little rest, quiet, and in a few days it'll all be forgotten.
Is she sleeping?
Yes. I gave her a sedative. She's resting very comfortably.
Can I go in and see her?
But I tell you, she's sleeping, John.
No, but... Oh, I've got to see her. I've got to look at her. I've got to make sure she's all right. Don't you see? I've got to make sure.
John, please. You've had a hard time of it. You'd better get to bed and get some rest.
Oh, no, Doctor, listen to me. I've got to see her again. I've got to make sure that she's all right. I can't rest until I know.
I tell you... Very well. Just for a moment.
Yes.
Be very quiet.
Yes.
See? She's resting very nicely.
Doctor, look.
What?
Her hands. Look at her hands.
They're clawed.
Her teeth. Her teeth. Linda!
No, John. You'll waken her.
Linda! listen to her.
Steady, John.
I can't stand it. I tell you, I can't stand it. She's Linda. She's my wife, my beautiful wife. Linda.
It's all right. I guess I'm going a little crazy myself. What's happening to her? What is it? I don't know, John. I don't know.
Listen to her. You've got to do something, Doctor. You've got to. You're my friend. You've got to help me.
What? In the name of all that's rational, what?
Something. There must be something you can do with drugs. Something. Anything.
Oh, John, I don't know what to say. I can't think. I'll call in someone else. That's it. I'll inform the authorities. They'll take care of everything.
No, wait.
What's the matter? What is it?
You're going to inform the authorities?
Yes, of course, John. Don't you see it's the simplest way out?
Way out?
Of course. For you and for me.
What do you mean?
John, this horrible thing that's happened to Linda, it goes beyond just you and me. It goes beyond the normal into the supernatural. Everyone should know about it. The world should know about it. Science.
You mean you're going to let everybody know what's happened to Linda?
Of course I am.
But you can't do that. She's my wife. You hear me? My wife.
No. Now, don't get excited again, John. Listen sensibly. We owe it to science.
Science? Who cares about science? She's Linda. She's my wife, but I cursed her to start and turned her into a yowling beast. It's my shame, mine. And you're not going to tell a living soul about it. No one, you hear me? No one.
It's my duty, John. I must inform the authorities.
No. Keep away from that phone. Keep away, I say.
I'm sorry, John.
Oh.
John, my friend.
No. Try to sleep, darling. Try to sleep. Yes, I know, darling. But it's almost morning. You must rest. Sleep, Linda. Sleep, my beloved. All right, darling. I've got to be strong. I've got to help you. And I did help you. He was going to tell them about you. Everyone. They have taken you away from me, locked you up, pointed at you, laughed at you. But I stopped him, Linda. I stopped him for you. He called me friend. But you're my wife, my beloved, and I love you. I've pleased you, haven't I, my darling? I never could please you before, could I? But now I've pleased you. I killed him, Linda. I killed my friend to save you. And if anybody comes, I'll say he never came here. And no one will know, darling. No one but you and I. What is it, darling? What's the matter? Why are you getting up? What is it? Why go to the window? What do you want? Oh, if I could only understand you. If I could only know what you're trying to say to me. Oh, no. Oh, Linda, stop. I'm begging you, stop. Linda, beloved, stop. Stop. Yes, I'm coming.
Good morning, Mr. Taylor.
Oh,
It's you.
I found this note saying you wanted to talk to me. Gee, I hope you're not going to quit taking milk from me, Mr. Taylor. I know I've been kind of late with deliveries the last couple of days, but you see, it's my...
No, I'm not going to stop taking milk. That's what I want to see you about. I want milk, more milk, cream, everything.
Oh, sure. How much do you want?
4 bottles of milk. No. 6. 6? Yes, and cream. 6 bottles of cream.
Is something wrong, Mr. Taylor?
Wrong? Why do you think something's wrong?
Oh, I only meant...
You meant what? Speak up. You meant what?
Oh, now, don't get sore, Mr. Taylor. I just meant, well, you don't look good, and well, you know how it is. Sometimes a fellow has a couple too many, and he starts ordering all the milk in the world.
You fool. I'm not drunk. You want to sell me that milk, or do I have to get another milkman?
No, I'll get it for you.
Hurry.
6 quarts, 6 cream. Only him and his old lady. The guy's nuts.
Drink the milk, my beloved. Please. But you haven't eaten anything. You're hungry. You must be hungry. Oh, my darling, what do you want? I'll get you anything. Just eat. No, I can't let you out of the room. I can't. Someone might come to the door. They'd see through the windows. Oh, be patient, Linda, darling. I'll think of something. Drink the milk. Your own good, Linda. Please. No, dearest. Don't do that. All right, dear. All right. I'll let you into the dining room. But you've got to stay away from the windows. If someone should see you. Here. Let me carry you. All right, darling. All right. I won't. Go yourself. You see, my darling, your pretty living room. Everything in it just the way you fixed it. Everything. Oh, Linda, this horrible thing that's happened to us. I tell myself it isn't real. I'll wake up soon and everything will be the way it used to be. You and I. Linda, where are you? Oh, Linda, don't, Linda. Don't touch my son. Linda, could you do it? Could you do it? Oh, my Linda, my dearest Linda, close to me. Oh, my darling, it's better this way. You can't leave me now. I'll have you with me always. I'll keep you here, just you and I. I won't answer it. They'll go away. All right. I'll answer it. No. Stay here, my beloved. They mustn't see you. Be very quiet. Be very quiet. Yes, I'm coming. Well, what is it?
Are you the owner of this building?
Yes, what do you want?
Kerrigan is the name. I'm your neighbor. I've got that place across the alley from you.
Neighbor?
Yeah, Kerrigan is my name. I'm with the department here.
Department?
Yes. I'm desk sergeant at the 3rd District Station. Yes. I'm off duty today, so I thought I'd drop over and speak to you. Do you mind if I step in for a moment?
Step in? Oh, no, not at all.
Thank you. You got a nice place here.
Yes, nice. Very nice.
You know, the same contractors made this place as made mine. You didn't know that, I bet.
No,
I didn't.
Yes. Irishman by the name of Gilhooly. You put up a line of bungalows along here on nothing but Blarney and the shoestring. Jumped out of the 10-story window, they tell me, the day after the stock market crash. Lucky for him. If he was alive now, some of the people around here that bought places only would murder him. What was the trouble they're having?
Trouble?
Say, now, speaking of trouble, remind me why I come over. If you don't mind, I'll tell you.
Yes?
No, it ain't me that's complaining, Mr. Taylor. I'm the kind of man that can sleep in a boiler factory. But it's me, Katie. There's a light sleeper for you. I always say that if a star in heaven twinkles too much, the noise wakes up me, Katie.
What is the trouble?
Well, you know how the women are. Always finding something to make a fuss about. Hey, I'm not disturbing her, am I? Yeah. You know, you're busy. She's not sleeping in the bedroom, maybe.
No, of course not. There's no one in there.
I thought maybe seeing the door is closed.
No, I tell you, there's no one in there. My wife, she's out of town.
Oh, well, that's fine. I always like to talk things over man to man without the women around. The women are all right, I says, but they don't know how to straighten out little troubles with neighbors without calling names and pulling hair.
What is it? What's wrong? What do you want to tell me?
Well, to put it plain, it's the cat. Cat? Yes, the cat. You just got it, didn't you?
You heard a cat?
Yes. It started a few nights ago. No, it ain't just a mean one, like I said, but Katie, where do you see our bedroom window facing? Right on the alley. And by golly, she hears every meow that animal makes.
You're wrong.
Eh?
I have no cat.
But Katie heard. I heard you too, for that matter.
I have no cat.
But I'm telling you, it's right from this house.
I tell you I have no cat. Isn't that sufficient?
Well, now, seeing as you put it so plain, I'll be speaking up plain myself. I'm telling you, I heard a cat yowling last night, and the night before, and the night before that. And as sure as my name's Thomas Kerrigan, they come right to this house. Now, what do you say to that? Get out. Now, wait a second, Neighbor. Wait a second. Don't get on your high horse.
Get out.
Well, now, see here. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just thinking maybe the animal's caught into your cellar without you knowing it. Now, if you let me go down...
I tell you, there's no cat here. Get out. Get out of here.
Oh, it's like that.
You heard me. Get out of my house.
Well, I guess you are making a lot of noise about nothing, young fella. But it's your house, and if that's the kind of neighbor you want to be, I guess...
What are you standing there for? Get out. Get out.
Now, just a minute. Take it easy. No cat, eh? Well, what was that I just...
Nothing at all. You've got no right.
Yes, sir, you may not be a liar, but you sure have something close to it. If that ain't a cat in that bedroom there, I ain't never heard of it.
Get out. Get out of here.
Oh, no, I won't. Listen to that cat. That ain't creating a public nuisance. I'd like to know what it is.
It's none of your business. This is my house. Get out of here.
Now, stop pulling at me, Bucko. I may be off duty, but I'm still an officer of the law. And I'm telling you that cat you got in it violating the city ordinance. Now, if you don't make it shut up, disturbing me, Katie, I will.
Stay away from that door. Stay away from that door.
Listen to it. That ain't no cat you got in there.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I lied. It is a cat. Just a cat. But I'll make it be quiet for the whole way.
Oh, wait a minute. Take it easy. If it's just a cat, what do you get so excited?
No, I'm not.
Look at you. Your eyes are blazing. What's going on here? I think I'll have a look.
Stay away. with my eyes. I'm blind. Oh, God, have pity on me. Help me to find it. It must be here. I dropped it somewhere. You're back now. Pressing against me. God, let me find that gun. I dropped it here somewhere. Let me find it. Got it. Got it. Yes, press close to me. I can't see you. Press close to me. I mustn't miss. There. Press close. What does it matter? You cussed animal. You've taken everything from me. My eyes, my life. Now I'll take... Let up! I have my beloved I'm living with. Linda. Wait.
Lights Out, with Boris Karloff, and written especially for radio by Arch Obler, comes to you each Wednesday from our Chicago studios.
The Mummers in the Little Theater of the Air.
Murders, too. The Hermit knows of them all. Turn out your lights. Turn them out. Have you heard the story? Buried alive, eh? Then listen while the Hermit tells you the story.
Let me out of this room. Help! Can't you hear me calling? Where are you? Let me out of this room, I say. Do you want to drive me mad? Why have you locked me in here? Bruce, where are you? Come here and let me out of this room. Lenore. Lenore. Oh, I've got to find her and you won't let me out of this room. Help! Oh, it's no use. No use. I can't get out. No use. Locked in. Windows are locked. I can't get them open. No use. If I could get them open, it's too far to jump. Why am I locked in? Lenore. Lenore. I hear you calling me, Lenore. I hear you calling. I hear you. But they won't let me out of this room. I'm locked in. Help! Someone let me out of this room. Let me out. Lenore is calling me. She needs me. Bruce, where are you? Let me out of here. I've got to help Lenore. Let me out of here. I'll break the door down. Let me out. Someone come and let me out. I've got to help Lenore. Help. Someone help me. Help. Lenore. I'll close this door so that his calling won't disturb us. There, that's better.
Is that your brother we hear calling?
Yes, Miss Dawson.
Oh.
You don't need to be frightened. If he sounds insane, it's because of the great calamity, the great shock that he's just had.
I understand, Mr. Judson.
I hope that you do, Miss Dawson, for upon your understanding of the case will his recovery largely rest.
Yes, sir.
You've brought your credentials with you.
Yes, sir.
May I see them?
They're right here in my purse. Just a minute, I'll find them. Yes. Here, Mr. Judson.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is right. Miss Marion Dawson, registered nurse. And a letter of recommendation from Dr. Simmons.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think you'll do very nicely. You look very capable and professional.
Thank you, sir.
Did Dr. Simmons explain anything about the case to you?
Well, not very much, Mr. Judson. He only said that your brother was suffering from shock and that I...
That's all right. I'll explain the case to you.
Yes, sir.
Before I take you up to his room... Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't been very thoughtful. Won't you remove your hat and coat?
Thank you.
Here, let me help you. Now, well, you look even more professional. There's something about a white uniform that does give a person prestige.
I came dressed to go on duty immediately. Dr. Simmons said that you'd want me to.
You did quite right. Now, sit down, won't you?
Thank you.
Now, Miss Dawson, it's my only blood relation living that you heard calling for help from upstairs. My brother, whose life I value more than mine.
Yes, sir.
Last night, we buried his wife.
Oh,
He'd only been married to her a month.
how tragic.
Well, death is not always tragedy, but this death happened to be. For Lenore was not only young, but beautiful. My brother and I were traveling when we met her 6 weeks ago.
Oh?
A young girl, without family, but a charming girl nevertheless. Arnold fell desperately in love with her. In 2 weeks they were married. We returned to our country estate here. A week later, she was taken ill. Last night we buried her.
It's awful, isn't it? Well, no wonder your poor brother's mind is deranged.
You have not heard all the tragedy yet. She suffered from a strange malady. Because of it, my brother was not allowed to see her from the hour she was taken ill.
I see.
I could not have my brother's life endangered.
Naturally not.
We allowed no one to see her. Dr. Simmons attended her. When she died, we buried her without ceremony and immediately. I didn't allow even the servants to come in contact with some strange disease which might sweep us all to death.
But you?
Yes, I cared for her. The hours of my life may be counted right now, as well as those of Dr. Simmons. But that doesn't matter. It's my brother Arnold with whom I'm concerned. That's why I've called you in to care for him.
Yes, sir.
And this is the point that you must understand. My brother Arnold doesn't realize that Lenore is dead and buried.
That's not unusual, sir. Many people are like that about death. They won't accept it or believe it.
I've had to lock him in his room, bolt down the windows, to keep him from rushing out to find her.
Perhaps if he'd seen her dead, sir,
Well, you forget? She died of some strange malady. That was impossible.
Yes, of course.
The worst part of it is that he keeps thinking he hears her calling to him. Claims that he hears her voice.
Oh.
That's why he wants to get out of his room and go to her. That's why you'll have to watch over him, carefully. Don't allow him out of your sight. Humor him, but guard him carefully. Remember, my brother's life and sanity may depend upon the good care you give him.
I'll do my best, Mr. Judson.
I'm sure you will. You realize that I love my brother. You'll be well paid for your services on this assignment, Miss Dawson. All I ask is that you carry out my orders explicitly. Don't let him out of his room or out of your sight. Now I'll take you up to him. If you'll just come along this way. Open the door. Open the door, Bruce. Open this door. It will be your duty to get him to quiet down. Keep him from pounding on this door.
Yes, sir.
I presume that Dr. Simmons suggested that you give him sedatives.
I'll get him quiet, sir.
Open the door. If you don't open it this minute, I'll smash the windows. I'll jump to the ground. Let me out. I'll unlock the door now. I'm going to unlock the door now, Arnold. Get away from the door. Let me out. I've got to go to Lenore. Now, step back, Arnold. Bruce, where is she? She's been calling to me. Why did you lock that door? Let me go to her. Go lie down on your bed, Arnold. No, never. Don't you understand? Lenore has been calling for me. She needs me.
Come now, lie down.
Won't you lie down and rest, sir?
Who is she?
Well, this is Miss Dawson, Arnold. She's come to care for you till you're well again.
I'm not ill. It isn't I, it's Lenore. And you won't let me go to her. Bruce, why are you doing this? Unlock the door and let me go to her.
There, now, it's all right. Everything's all right. Miss Dawson will care for you. You'll get a good rest. And when you wake up, you'll feel a lot better.
Your brother's right.
I'll leave you now. It's 8 o'clock. I'll have your dinner served in here immediately. If you need me for anything, I'll be down in the library till near 11 o'clock. Then I'll retire.
Yes, sir.
My room is the fourth one down on the right. Call for me if you need me during the night.
I will, Mr. Judson.
Wait a minute. Don't go, Bruce. Tell me, Boris. What is it that's wrong? Why can't I see her? Why have you locked me in here?
I've tried to tell you, Arnold. You won't believe me. Perhaps Miss Dawson can explain after I leave. Ring this buzzer if you need to get out of the room. You understand, Miss Dawson? Now get away. Get away from the door, Arnold.
He's locking the door again. He's locking us in.
He knows what's best. Now come lie on your bed.
No.
I'm going to give you something so that you can rest.
What's wrong with Lenore?
Lie down on your bed and I'll tell you.
She's ill, and they won't let me see her.
Here. I want you to take some of these tablets.
I won't take any medicine.
I'll get a glass of water.
I tell you, I won't take anything that will make me sleep. Lenore is calling to me. She needs me.
Now take these, please. They won't make you sleep. They'll just calm your nerves. Take them and I'll tell you about Lenore.
Have you seen her? What is it that's wrong?
Take these tablets first.
All right.
That's it.
Are you here in the house to take care of her? What's wrong?
Lie down now. There, that's better.
You promised to tell me.
Close your eyes. I'm going to turn off the light so that you can rest.
Answer me.
Don't you understand? Your wife was very ill. She suffered from a disease that was contagious. Your brother couldn't let you see her. But now she's out of her pain. You see...
No, she's not dead. I know she's not dead.
It's hard to believe, I know.
She's not dead, I know that. Oh, listen. You hear that? You hear that?
No, Sarah. I hear nothing.
You must hear it. It's Lenore. She's calling to me. All day she's called to me. All last night, all the hours of the night she's called to me. She's calling now. Can't you hear her? She's still in this house. She's not dead. She's in this house and she's calling to me. Calling to me.
You're all right. I'm right here beside your bed.
What's happened?
You've been asleep.
Sleep? How long?
It's nearly midnight. You've been sleeping since I first came into the room.
You gave me medicine. You forced me to sleep.
You needed the rest.
Where's my brother?
He's retired, sir. The whole house is quiet. If you'd like me to get you something to eat,
No,
I'll...
but I've got to get out of here. What's that? Listen. What was that?
It sounded like someone at the door.
It is. Open the door. It may be Lenore. I don't hear her calling, but it may be her.
It can't be her. But I'll see who it is. Who's there?
Unlock the door.
I have to ring for your brother if I want the door unlocked. I have no key. Who's there?
Who's outside the door? Is it you, Lenore? Why don't you answer?
I guess we must have been mistaken. There's no one outside the door.
Someone knocked at the door.
I think we must have been mistaken.
Listen. There is someone outside. What? They're tapping on the door again.
It does sound like it. But when I called, there was no one there.
Look.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Doesn't it seem to you as if the door was slowly opening?
Yes, it is.
It's like it was opening all by itself.
But the door is locked.
Well, that may be, but that door is opening all by itself.
How can it be?
Oh. Look. Standing in the doorway. It's Lenore.
Oh, great heavens.
Lenore, you're not dead. You're here. They told me you were dead. Lenore. She's leaving again. Where are you going? Wait. She's vanished.
Oh.
She just vanished, but now look. She's standing at the head of the stairs. She's waving for me to follow her. Lenore, I'm coming. I see you.
Stop! Oh, Mr. Judson, help! Come here quickly! He's gotten out of the room! Oh, Mr. Judson, please come quickly! Oh,
what is it, Miss Dawson? Well, what is it?
Oh, Mr. Judson, he's gone down the stairs.
What?
Are you sure, sir, that Lenore is dead?
Of course I'm sure. What are you talking about?
I don't know, sir. But a woman dressed all in white just stood in the doorway of your brother's room. She moved down the hall, and now he's gone to follow her. He said it was Lenore.
Hurry, stop him. Don't let him get away. It can't be Lenore. She's dead. Dead! Hurry, we've got to get Arnold back to his room.
Lenore is dead. How can she appear in the doorway of the room? The hermit will tell you before the night is done.
Now, the hermit again.
Arnold follows the figure dressed all in white that beckons him out of the house. Nurse Dawson and Mr. Judson follow after him.
Wait for me, Lenore. Where are you going? Wait for me. Wait for me. Lenore, I'm coming. I'm coming, Lenore. Wait for me. Come on. Hurry. Come on. There he is. Up ahead of us. I see him.
Yes, I see him too.
Arnold! Stop. Wait a minute. Wait for us.
He's running faster.
Why did you ever let him get out of the room?
I couldn't help it. The door opened. I don't know how. She was standing there.
Have you gone out of your mind? How could a door open by itself? And who could be standing in the doorway?
He said it was Lenore.
Nonsense. Arnold! Wait for us. Wait! I don't see him now. Where's he gone?
He turned down that side road, sir. Just now.
He's liable to get out on the highway and be killed. We've got to stop him.
This way. He went this way.
Yeah. I see him now. Arnold! Stop where you are. We're coming. Lenore. You must come back to the house, Arnold. She's disappeared. You didn't see anyone, Arnold? Yes, I did. I saw Lenore. As for the nurse, she knows. Lenore stood in the doorway of my room. She beckoned me to follow her all the way down the road. Now she's vanished here in the park somewhere. Don't you realize, Arnold, that Lenore is dead? She couldn't have stood in your doorway. She couldn't have beckoned you out of the house. She's dead. She wouldn't speak to me. She just waved for me to follow her. And now she's gone. We must get my brother back to the house, Miss Dawson.
Yes, sir.
Now, come, Arnold. We're going home now.
We'll take you home now, Arnold. You and I must have been mistaken. We didn't see anyone.
No. We were not mistaken. Look. Look. Up ahead of us. Lenore. There she is again. Great heaven. I see you. Wait for me. I'm coming.
Stop him. Stop him. We've got to stop him.
We can never catch him this time. He's running so fast.
No. He mustn't go that way. No. No.
Arnold. Arnold, wait for us. Wait. Look, Mr. Judson. Look where he's going.
I see him. He can't go that way. No. Arnold, stop. You can't go there. No. We've got to stop him. He can't go there. We must stop him.
Wait, let go of me. Let go of me. You can't stop me now.
I'll not let you go in that vault.
Let go of my arm, Bruce. You can't stop me. Lenore went in there.
I'm trying to save you for your own good, for the sake of the sanity of your mind. Your wife lies in her coffin in that vault. You couldn't have seen her. She didn't beckon you to come here. It's just a trick of your mind.
I'm going into this vault.
You can't go inside. She died of a contagious disease. You may get it too, Arnold.
Nothing can stop me now. I'm going inside. Lenore. Where are you, Lenore?
Come back out there. You'll only find her lying in there dead.
We'd better follow him. He's likely to faint when he sees her.
Arnold, come out here.
Look. Look. Lenore.
She is dead. What did I tell you? Now come away.
Oh, look. She's on the floor of the vault. Oh.
Come away from here.
I found her here on the floor of the vault.
She's dead.
She's dead now. But she wasn't dead when you brought her here. No. My brother knows that. You know that, Bruce Judson.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean. You buried her alive. Oh!
Now, you're insane.
Insane, am I? You know I found you out.
Because you find her body on the floor, you think I buried her alive? Why, the coffin tipped over, that's all.
You buried her alive. She got out of the coffin, but she couldn't get out of the vault. Only her spirit could do that. I heard her voice before she really died down in here, calling me. She called to me, but you locked me in my room. And then her spirit came to me tonight to tell me what had happened. Oh, Lenore. Lenore.
Oh, what a terrible thing. You did that to your brother and that woman.
What if I did? What if I did do it? She's dead now, isn't she? Forever. She fell in love with Arnold, not me. Now she's dead. Forever. Sure, I planned it, plotted it. It worked out. The medicine I gave her made her sleep the sleep of death. And we buried her alive. We buried her alive. Buried her alive.
Such a heinous crime will live in a world of mad darkness from now on. The compensation for his crime. Turn on your lights. Turn them on. I'll be back. Pleasant dreams.
matters mentioned in the Hermit's cave are fictitious, and similarity to persons, places, or occurrences is purely accidental.
The Mysterious Traveler.
This is the Mysterious Traveler, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and the terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back and get a good grip on your nerves, if you can. Where are we going? Tonight we're going on a little excursion into the realm of pure imagination. You've all heard the old saying, believe in a thing enough and it'll come true. Well, just suppose many people came to believe in something that couldn't possibly be real. Such as an artificial monster growing in a scientist's laboratory. What would happen? But if you want to know what might happen, listen to the story I call If You Believe. My story begins in a rambling old house deep in the woods. In a homemade laboratory, gray-haired Professor Jonathan Davis is peering eagerly into a large glass container that holds an odd, transparent, jelly-like substance.
Ellen! Oh, Ellen!
Yes, Dad?
Ellen, come quick.
I'm coming, dear. What is it?
Ellen, look. I think I've succeeded at last.
Oh, Dad.
You look. Your eyes are better than mine. Yes? Isn't there movement in the protoplasm this time? Isn't it stirring just a little?
No, Dad. There isn't any movement.
No? You're positive, Ellen? I was sure I saw some sign of life.
I'm quite positive, Dad. Now, please, won't you admit that what you're trying to do is impossible?
No, Ellen. No, I will succeed. I know it. Now, come, we've got to try another feeding mixture. You see, hand me the saline solution and the dextrose, and I'll begin again.
But while Professor Davis labored in his lonely seclusion to make a lifelong dream come true, something that was to affect him vitally was happening in the editorial room of the largest newspaper in the nearby city.
Steady desk, Benson speaking. Oh, hello, Mr. McGuire. Yes? Well, yes, sure. I've been reading Dan Duncan's special features. I edit them. I see. You don't think they've been colorful enough lately, huh? Well, to tell the truth, I agree with you. I've been meaning to speak to him about it. Yes. Sure, I'll do it now. He just came in. Right. Right. Good night, Mr. McGuire. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, Joe. What cooks?
The big boss just phoned down.
What's he want?
Well, frankly, he thinks you're slipping.
McGuire thinks I'm slipping. Well, I like that.
That's what he said.
And I've done everything to get hot material except to go out and commit a murder myself.
Well, maybe he's tired of murders. You want to know why you don't turn up something like that haunted house story you did last spring?
Why, I don't. That was a good story, wasn't it?
It was honey.
Yeah. Especially the description of the way the ghost of the drowned girl walked around the house, leaving wet spots where it stepped. You know, I caught a heck of a cold walking around in wet socks to make those footmarks.
No more than you deserve for faking a story.
You're faking a story. Listen, Benson, any time a million readers believe a story, it's true. And they believed in that ghost. Every one of them.
I'm not saying they didn't, but McGuire wants another story just as good.
I got a good mind to tell the old buzzard to fly a kite. Another story like... Hey.
Huh? What is it?
I think I got it. Hey, Ted. Ted Jones.
Oh, yeah, Dan?
Front and center.
Oh.
Yeah, what is it, Dan?
All right, dump your camera on the desk and sit.
Okay.
Now tell me, what was that story you told me last week about some professor living up in the woods back at town, never coming out of his private lab?
Oh, you mean Professor Davis?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Well, what about him?
There was a fuss over something he said in a lecture one day, wasn't there?
A fuss? Oh, it was more like an explosion.
Hey, wait a minute. I remember that case. Professor claimed he could create an artificial man. Wasn't that it?
No. He said that an artificial man might be produced someday. Might be.
Well, the paper said he claimed he could create one.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it made a good story, didn't it?
And drove Professor Davis out of the university into retirement. Oh, the school didn't like the publicity.
Water under the bridge, kid. Anyway, here's the old professor working away secretly for the last 5 years. All alone?
No, he wasn't all alone. His daughter Ellen's with him.
How old is she?
Oh, she was 15 then, so...
She's 20 now. Good looker?
Well, I was in Professor Davis's class. I remember as a skinny brat with yellow hair.
Yeah, good, a blonde. So here's the prof secretly working with his beautiful blonde daughter at what?
I'll bite.
What? Why, he's trying to prove he was right. He's trying to create an artificial man.
Say, you've got something there.
Oh, no, wait a minute. You don't know Professor Davis is trying to create artificial life.
Well, we soon will. You know where his hideout is, don't you?
Yeah.
All right, then grab your camera. Let's get going.
Oh, no, wait a minute, Dan. Suppose you find Professor Davis is...
Forget it. Benson, save me 2 columns. Come on, Ted. We're on our way.
There, Ellen. It's done. Now we must warm it ever so gently. It'll stay at blood heat until morning. And then, Ellen...
Oh, I hope so, Dad, but... Darling, if you fail again, won't you please promise me to stop trying to create this artificial protoplasm?
Well, we'll talk about that in the morning. Now, Oh, who could that be?
I'll go see, Dad. Yes?
I'm Ted Jones, Miss Davis. I don't suppose you remember me.
Ted Jones? Oh, you were one of Father's students, weren't you?
Yes, that's right. I'm a newspaper photographer now. Could we come in? I have a friend with me, a reporter.
Ellen, who is it?
Newspapermen, Dad. They want to see you.
Newspapermen, don't let them in. Send them away.
I come now, Professor. We just want to ask you a couple of questions, and but we can talk better inside, so... There. Now we can talk like friends.
Hey, but Dan, we weren't invited in.
How dare you force your way in here? Get out, both of you.
Please go.
Dan, come on. Professor Davis doesn't want to talk to us.
Keep your shirt on, Ted. Just a couple of questions, Professor. Now, isn't it true that hidden away here you're creating artificial life?
I won't answer your questions. You just print more lies and ruin everything I'm trying to do.
Then you are creating artificial life, huh?
Young man,
Tell me how far you've gotten. You figuring on springing an artificial man on us one of these days?
You fools. While I still struggle to create synthetic protoplasm, you talk of artificial men. Go before I throw you out.
Please go, please.
Come on, Dan, we're leaving.
Okay, we're going. Thanks for the interview, Professor. Read all about it in tomorrow's Courier.
The imbeciles. What do they know of science? All they want is to cheapen my work. Make it a sensation for the headlines.
Please, Father, you must get control of yourself. They've gone now.
Yes, dear. Well, they shan't interfere with my work. Well, Ellen.
Yes, Dad, what is it?
Ellen, the mixture's moving. This time I'm sure of it. The protoplasm, it's alive.
Say, Dan, this is something. Behind bolted doors, deep in the woods, Professor Jonathan Davis toils night and day to create the world's first synthetic man. In a great vat lies a strange caricature of humanity. It has a head, arms, legs, a body, all of them fashioned of a pale green substance like gelatin.
Nice touch, huh?
Day by day, life stirs more strongly in this grotesque creation of science. Someday it may breathe, walk, eat. Now, look, Dan, aren't you going pretty strong?
Ah, forget it. The old man wants a story, doesn't he? Besides, the professor really is working on synthetic protoplasm. Maybe he has got a pale green monster in his bathtub. How do I know?
Okay, Dan, but if you're faking this story, I know nothing about it.
Faking it? You know I never fake stories.
Okay. We'll set this up and put it in the press wires. By noon tomorrow, 40 million people will be believing in Professor Davis' artificial monster.
By noon tomorrow, I'll be believing in it myself.
Hey, man, read all about it. Scientist, great artificial man. Read all about it. Hey,
And so, all over the nation, people read the story and marveled and believed, while in the laboratory, hidden in the woods.
Oh, look. This time it is alive. It is. There can be no doubt of it.
The liquid is certainly moving, Dad.
Yes, see? And the protoplasm is breathing. Listen. You can hear it. I've created artificial life, Ellen.
Yes, I'm afraid so, Dad.
Afraid so? What do you mean? I'd like to see their faces down at the university when they hear of this.
It's grown since last night.
Yes, it has. The cells are multiplying like true protoplasm. That's why I transferred it to this gas tank. Now I must add salt, acid, phosphorus.
Oh, that must be grocery boy. Excuse me, Dad. Yes? Oh, you.
Miss Davis, I hope that you'll let me apologize.
We have nothing to say to you.
Please don't shut the door before I explain.
Explain? There's nothing to explain. You force your way in here.
I came to apologize for that. Well, have you seen the morning papers?
We're not interested in the papers.
I'm afraid you'll be interested in this one. Look.
Oh, how outrageous.
That story of your father creating an artificial man is in every paper in the country, and I feel I'm to blame, and I want to make up for it. Can't I come in so we can talk?
I guess you'd better, Mr. Jones. But Dad mustn't see this paper.
Oh, no, of course not. But won't he recognize me?
No, I don't think so. He's very nearsighted. I'll just tell him that you used to be one of his students.
And if you'll tell me the real truth, I'll try to get the paper to understand that Dan Duncan just made up his story.
Who is it, Ellen?
It's Ted Jones, Dad, one of your former students. He called to say hello.
Jones, eh?
Yes.
Ted Jones. Oh, yes, of course. Organic chemistry, wasn't it, Jones?
Oh, yes, sir.
You're the one who kept breaking things. Oh, Jones, I have something here you'll be very interested in. Come and see.
Yes, sir.
Look.
That stuff in the tank. That seems to be alive.
It is alive. Synthetic protoplasm, my boy, the first ever created.
It's breathing.
Yes, and it's also growing. Life becomes stronger by the moment.
It's changing color, Dad. It's becoming a pale green.
Yes, growing fast. Very fast. I never dreamed that success would come so completely.
Hiya, Ted. I thought I'd find you here.
Why, Dan.
Dan Duncan himself. Hiya, Professor.
What do you want here?
Oh, just a few pictures. Shot of you in your lab, so forth.
You have the nerve to come here after what you've done.
What I've done? You haven't seen anything yet. You and your father are big news now. You're going to be bigger.
Dan, you'd better go.
Better go? I don't follow you, kid.
I said you'd better go. There isn't any story here for you.
No story? Hey, what's eating you? Aren't you here to get a follow-up?
No, I came here to get the truth. Something you wouldn't be interested in.
Hey, what kind of talk is that?
Are you going to go, or will I have to throw you out?
Throw me out? Now, listen, kid.
You want me to try it? All right, I will.
Oh, okay, I'm going. Take your hands off me. But don't think you can get away with this. You're fired.
And that's all right with me.
As for you, Professor, you and your artificial man are going to be so well known in a day or two, you'll be getting offers from Hollywood.
And so, with each edition of the papers, the headlines grew bigger.
Next week, read all about it. All about the artificial monster.
The telegraph wires carried editorials condemning Professor Davis.
Is it a man or is it a monster Professor Davis has created? By his refusal to answer questions, the professor led us to suspect that this creation...
Radio commentators spread the story to still more listening millions.
A strange substance like pale green gelatin. Now it moves and stirs in its confinement, seeking to escape.
speakers denounced Professor Davis.
And I ask you, can science be permitted to venture into these forbidden realms unchecked? Who knows what horror may emerge from the laboratory if we are not careful? This mad thing must be stopped. Stopped!
Who is it?
Oh, it's me, Ted.
Oh. Ted, did you have any trouble?
No, I got the medicine for your father, all right, and I brought the evening papers, too.
What do they say?
Pretty bad. They're all using Duncan's story, and he shot the works.
Ted, how can he do such a thing?
Well, he's a very plausible writer. He has a knack for making people believe him. If anybody accuses him of lying, he'll just say that he was misled by your father.
I see. I'm sorry you lost your job trying to help us.
That doesn't matter. I was about ready to quit anyway. How is your father now?
He seems to be sleeping quietly.
Well, I'm sticking around until he's all right again.
Well, you don't have to do that, Ted. I'll make out.
If I hadn't gotten into that fight with Duncan, your father might not have had his stroke.
No, it was just the excitement. It's his heart, but I know how to take care of him. But, Ted, I'm frightened.
About your father?
No, about it, the protoplasm.
Oh.
It's changed just since this morning.
It's changed? Well, how?
It's grown and... Well, come on, see for yourself.
All right. Ellen, it seems to be taking on shape.
Yes, and it looks... Oh, Ted, it looks like green gelatin.
That's the way Duncan describes it.
And look, there's a vague shape like a head and the rough outline of arms and legs.
Oh, it isn't possible.
It shouldn't be, but it's happening. Something terrible is taking place inside that glass tank.
I don't understand it. Your father certainly never intended to create this.
You know, all afternoon I've been wondering if Father really has created it.
I don't follow you, Ellen. You mean some outside force might be responsible?
Ted, you know the old saying, believe in a thing enough and it'll come true.
Yes, of course.
Well, I think that's true. The power of belief is a tremendous thing. People begin to believe that there's going to be a depression, and there is a depression.
But, Ellen...
They begin to believe that strangers and foreigners are enemies, and pretty soon they are enemies. They believe there's going to be a war, and war comes.
Well, that's true, but what are you getting at?
How many people are reading Dan Duncan's story this very minute, right now, while we're talking?
Hundreds of thousands, probably, all over the nation. Maybe 1 million.
And they all believe it's true.
Well, a good many of them. Yes, Dan has a genius for being plausible.
Then don't you see, Ted? Here in this laboratory is the necessary material for a monster. And out there are all those people believing in such a fantastic monster.
You mean 1 million people are thinking life into the protoplasm?
Yes, Ted. I know it sounds fantastic, but that monster was never created by my father. Dan Duncan created it when he wrote about it.
Well, and if that's true...
There's no other answer. Over there in that glass tank is something that's alive only because millions of people believe it's alive.
Now it is alive. There's no telling what it may become. Ellen, we have to destroy it.
It'll break Dad's heart, but we can't let it live.
Well, it's growing bigger by the minute. We've got to get rid of it now before it grows any larger.
There's acid in those bottles. There, that'll destroy it.
All right. Yeah, I see. Here. Just as soon as I get it open, this will take care of the creature.
Be careful, Ted. It can burn you dreadfully.
Ellen, what's happening? What are you doing?
Dad, darling, you're supposed to be in bed.
I'm feeling better. I wanted to see how the protoplasm was.
Please go back to bed, Dot. Your heart.
Oh, my heart's all right, but I must be sure. Oh, it's changed. It's taken on a form.
Yes, Professor, a monstrous, unnatural form.
It has a head, arms, legs. But it can't have. It's only protoplasm. It's all impossible.
Unfortunately, it's true. I can't explain now, but, well, we've got to destroy it.
No, the culmination of my life's work. You can't destroy it.
We must, Dad.
No, I won't let you.
It's the only thing to do.
Professor, look at it. It's crawling around inside the tank now. It's trying to climb out.
But it can't be dangerous. It's just harmless protoplasm.
Dad, Ted is right. You've got to let us kill it.
It's just protoplasm, I tell you.
It was just protoplasm.
Stand back, Professor. I'm going to empty this acid on you.
No, you mustn't. I won't.
Dad!
Professor Davis! Professor Davis, look out! With the tank. He fell against the tank and broke it.
Is he hurt, Ted?
Well, I'll see.
Ted, the protoplasm is moving toward him.
We've got to get him out of here. I have his arms. Quick, you take his feet.
I have them. Oh, hurry up, Ted. It's trying to crawl out of the tank.
Got to get him upstairs. Can you manage it?
Yes. Come on.
All right, easy now, easy. All right, just a little farther. All right, one more step, Ellen. There. Now, here's the landing. We can put him down here. Now, easy. There.
Ted, I can't find his pulse.
Let me try.
Dad? Ted, it's no use. He's gone.
I'm afraid so.
His heart failed him. I've always known it would someday. Ted, down in the laboratory.
Yes, it's moving. Look, it's gotten out of the tank and it's crawling all around the lab.
And the only way out is down those stairs and through the lab. We're trapped up here.
Look, I'm not saying it isn't a good story, Dan. It's a whale of a story. But McGuire wants some pictures.
Pictures? How can I get pictures? I can't even get into the place.
I don't care. Just get them.
You want me to bust in the window, I suppose?
Let your conscience be your guide. And I know you haven't got a conscience. But make it fast. I want those shots for the late morning edition.
All right. I'm going. With a camera in one hand and a bunch of skeleton keys in the other.
It's looking for food, Ted.
Yes, and it's getting frantic. Look how it crawls back and forth through the lab. It's been doing that for an hour now.
Look how enormous it's grown. Suppose it tries to come up these stairs to this balcony.
Well, it may not. It has no eyes, no intelligence. It's just protoplasm, blindly seeking food.
But suppose it does try to come up the stairs.
Well, then we'll stop it. I have the gun here that I found in your father's desk. I'll use that on it.
I don't think it would even feel a bullet.
Well, we'll see. There, it's on the other side of the lab now in plain sight. Stand back, dear, and I'll try a couple of shots. I hit it.
It didn't even notice.
No. Well, if we could only reach those bottles of acid, that would fix it.
But every time we've started down the stairs, it's rushed over to wait for us.
Must feel the vibration, but I'm going to take one more try.
Ted, please be careful.
Yes, I will. I'll tiptoe down one step at a time. Perhaps I can avoid attracting its attention this time. What's it doing now?
Lying quiet, as if it was listening.
Only lie quiet a few seconds more. I'm almost at the bottom.
Ted, quick! It's coming this way! Oh, Ted, it almost got
Yes,
you.
it did touch my foot, but I wasn't interested in getting any better acquainted.
What are we going to do now?
I don't know, Ellen. If we could only reach that acid. Say, I wonder if it would make any difference if we turned out the lights. They can be controlled from up here, can't they?
Oh, yes, but what good would that do?
Well, in the dark, it might become inactive. Some elementary organisms are like that.
Well, we can try it. Okay, I'll turn out the lights. There. It's pitch black now. But it's still moving around.
Well, just wait a moment. Listen.
What is it, Ted?
Thought I heard footsteps outside the house.
Footsteps?
Just listen.
Someone coming in the front door. Ted, there's someone in the lab.
But who would... Good heavens, Ellen. Duncan, is that you, Dan? Dan, answer me. Is that you? Get out, quick!
Okay, kid, keep your shirt on. I'm going as soon as I get a picture of this joint.
But, Dan, you don't understand. It's loose. Get away, quick! Ellen, turn on that light.
Yes, Ted.
You can't scare me, kid. I came to get a picture, and I'm going to get it.
Run, Dan, run! Ellen, don't look.
We've got to save him.
Quick, Ellen, the ass.
Hurry, Ted, hurry.
if one will break them over it, understand?
Get it!
Well, come on, then.
He's gone. Duncan's gone.
It's covering him. It's eating him. Ellen, throw your bottle now. Sulfuric acid, of course, of it, enough to kill anything. The acid is burning into it. It's killing it. Ellen is dying.
It's not moving anymore.
It's not breathing either. We've killed it.
It's starting to melt away. It's dissolving.
Now that it's dead, it's turning back into the liquid it started from. The substance that the belief of millions gave an unreal life to.
Well, it's gone back to a liquid now. There's nothing left of it.
It's gone as if it had never existed.
Except for Dan Duncan. Oh, dear.
There's nothing we can do for him, Ellen. He's dead. We created the monster. And it's killed him.
This is the mysterious traveler again. Well, maybe it's true about believing in things and making them happen. Wars and depressions and artificial monsters and things like that. I think I'll make a New Year's resolution to be careful what I believe in 1947. No more believing in bogeymen or spooks. I might meet one. Instead, I'll try believing in some of the nicer things for a change, such as peace and goodwill among nations. Well, if I can get enough people to join me, maybe they'll come true and... Oh, you have to get off here. I'm sorry. But I'm sure we'll meet again. I take this same train every week at this time.
You have just heard The Mysterious Traveler, a series of dramas of the strange and terrifying. In today's cast were Maurice Tauplin, Chuck Webster, Louise Fitch, Wendell Holmes, Edgar Staley, and Bill Smith. Original music was played by Doc Whipple. The Mysterious Traveler is written, produced, and directed by Bob Arthur and David Kogan. And now, a preview of next week's strange story by The Mysterious Traveler.
It's only 2 days now to New Year's Eve. Were you planning a big celebration to greet 1947? I'd be careful if I were you. Because, you see, our story next week is about a man who did just that. In fact, it was such a big celebration that when he got over it, it wasn't 1947 at all, but 1948. He lost a whole year out of his life. And when he finally got the year back, well, what happened to him New Year's Eve? So you'll be sure to be on hand next week for the strange and terrifying tale I call New Year's Nightmare.
The Mysterious Traveler is presented from our New York studios. Carl Caruso speaking. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Now stay tuned for Sleep No More on NBC. This is Nelson Olmsted. Sleep no more. Turn down the lights, sink back in your chair, and don't look into the shadows. In the shadows, there may be moving things. Tonight, it may be, you will sleep no more. Good evening. This is Ben Grauer introducing tonight's tale of terror, told by Nelson Olmsted on the National Broadcasting Company's presentation of Sleep No More. The story of terror can be as simple as a sheeted ghost rattling chains. It can be a complex and hidden world of horror, lurking in such unholy dimensions as only the dead and the moonstruck can glimpse. Or it can be those terrible, fathomless shadows which lie buried deep in the primitive mind of civilized man. And for this evening, well, Nelson Olmsted, tell us about this evening's story.
Once in a while in my reading, I come across a short story so different, so powerful, so well written that I can't forget it. Our first story tonight is a case in point, written by one of England's masters of the short story art, A.M. Burrage. It's about a man who went out of his way to scare himself to the absolute limit. Listen while I tell you about the Waxwork. While the uniformed attendants of Merrimer's Waxworks were ushering the last stragglers through the great glass-paneled double doors, the manager sat in his office interviewing Raymond Hewson, a journalist. The manager was speaking.
Yes, Mr. Hewson. It used to be said years ago that Madame Tussauds would give a man £100 for sleeping alone in the Chamber of Horrors. I hope you don't think that we've made any such offer, Mr. Hewson. However, if you get your story printed in the Morning Echo, there will be a £5 note waiting for you here when you care to come and call for it.
Well, that's satisfactory.
Fine. But first of all, it's no small ordeal that you're proposing to undertake. I'd like to be quite sure about you, and I'd like you to be quite sure about yourself. I own I shouldn't care to take it on. I've seen those wax figures dressed and undressed, and I know all about the process of their manufacture. I can walk about in their company downstairs as unmoved as if I were walking among so many skittles. But I should hate having to sleep down there among them, alone. Well, why? I don't know. There isn't any reason. I don't believe in ghosts. It's just that I couldn't sit alone among them at night with their seeming to stare at me the way they do. No, the whole atmosphere of the place is unpleasant. And if you are susceptible to atmosphere, I warn you that you are in for a very uncomfortable night.
Hewson had known that from the moment when the idea had first occurred to him. His soul sickened at the prospect, even while he smiled casually upon the manager. But he had a wife and family to keep, and for the past month, he had found almost no newspaper work. Here was a chance not to be missed. The price of a special story in the Morning Echo with a £5 note to add to it. It meant comparative wealth and luxury for a week, and freedom from the worst anxieties for a fortnight. Besides, if he wrote the story well, it might lead to an offer of regular employment. So he said to the manager, I've already promised myself an uncomfortable night because your murderer's den is obviously not fitted up as a hotel bedroom. But I don't think your waxworks will worry me much.
You're not superstitious?
Not a bit.
But you're a journalist. You must have a strong imagination.
The news editors for whom I work have always complained that I haven't any.
Well, there is one condition I'm afraid I must impose upon you. I must ask you not to smoke. Yes, we had a fire scare down in the murderer's den earlier this evening. I don't know who gave the alarm, but it was a false one. Fortunately, there were very few people down there at the time, or there might have been a panic. And now, if you're ready, we'll go.
Well, Hewson followed the manager through half a dozen rooms where attendants were busy shrouding the wax figures. Beyond these rooms was the murderer's den. It was a room of irregular shape with a vaulted roof. By design, an eerie and uncomfortable chamber whose atmosphere invited its visitors to speak in whispers.
the waxwork murderers stood on low pedestals. The manager, walking around with Hewson, pointed out several of the more interesting of these unholy criminals, and Hewson pointed and whispered, "Who's that?" "Oh, I was coming to him. And come and have a good look at him. Oh, this is our star boarder, Dr. Burdett." "Hmm? Yes, I think I've heard the name, but I forget in connection with what." "Well, you'd remember better if you were a Frenchman. For some long while, that man was the terror of Paris, yes. As he carried on his work of healing by day and throat-cutting by night, when the fit was on him. He killed for the sheer devilish pleasure it gave him to kill, and always in the same way, with a razor. Yes. After his last crime, he left a clue behind which set the police upon his track. One clue led to another, and before very long, they knew that they were on the track of the Parisian equivalent of our Jack the Ripper. But when he realized that the police were closing about him, he mysteriously disappeared. And ever since, the police of every civilized country have been looking for him." Yes, well, I don't like him at all. Ooh, what eyes he's got. Yes. This wax figure's a little masterpiece. You find the eyes bite into you? Well, now, that's excellent realism, then. For Burdett practiced mesmerism and was supposed to mesmerize his victims before dispatching them. Oh, wait, I thought I saw him move. Yes. You'll have more than one optical illusion before the night's out, I expect. You shan't be locked in. You can come upstairs when you've had enough of it. Well, good night, Mr. Hewson. Good night. I'll see you in the morning. The manager left, and Hewson got ready for the night. He wheeled the armchair a little way down the central gangway and deliberately turned it so that its back was toward the effigy of Dr. Burdett. For some undefined reason, he liked Dr. Burdett a great deal less than his companions. Busying himself with arranging the chair, he was almost lighthearted. But when the attendant's footfalls had died away and a deep hush stole over the chamber, he realized that he had no slight ordeal before him. The dim, unwavering light fell on the rows of figures which were so uncannily like human beings that the silence and the stillness seemed unnatural and even ghastly. The eyes of Dr. Burdett's effigy haunted and tormented him, and he itched with a desire to turn and look. At last he could stand it no longer and quickly looked behind him. Among the many figures standing in the stiff, unnatural poses, the effigy of the dreadful little doctor stood out with a queer prominence. Hewson looked into the doctor's eyes for one agonized second and turned again to face the other direction. It struck him, in the moment or two, while he'd looked behind him, that there had been the least subtle change in the grouping of the figures in front. Hewson held his breath for a moment, and then drew his courage back to him as a man lifts a weight. He remembered the words of more than one news editor and laughed savagely to himself, saying, "Yes, and they tell me I've got no imagination." He thought this was very cowardly and very absurd. They were only waxworks, and they couldn't move. Let him hold that thought, and all would be well. But then, why all that silent unrest about him? A subtle something in the air which didn't quite break the silence and happened whichever way he looked, just beyond the boundaries of his vision. Suddenly, he heard somebody breathing. He swung around quickly to encounter the mild but baleful stare of Dr. Burdett. No change. Oh, this was a little too much. It was bad enough that the waxwork effigies of murderers should move when they weren't being watched, but it was intolerable that they should breathe. Somebody was breathing. Or was it his own breath, which sounded to him as if it came from a distance? He sat rigid, listening and straining, until he exhaled with a long sigh. His own breath, after all, or, if not, something had divined that he was listening and had at that moment ceased breathing. Now, this would not do. This distinctly would not do. He must clutch at something, grip with his mind upon something which belonged essentially to the workaday world, to the daylight London streets. He was Raymond Hewson, an unsuccessful journalist, a living and breathing man.
And these figures grouped around him were only dummies, so they could neither move nor whisper. Still, the gaze of Dr. Burdett urged, challenged, and finally compelled him to turn. Hewson half turned and then swung his chair so as to bring him face to face with those dreadful hypnotic eyes. Hewson's own eyes were dilated, and his mouth lifted at the corners in a snarl. And then Hewson spoke and woke 100 sinister echoes. "You moved, blast you! Yes, you did! I saw you!" And then he sat quite still, staring straight before him, like a man found frozen in the Arctic snows. Dr. Burdett's movements were leisurely. He stepped off his pedestal with the mincing care of a lady alighting from a bus. He stepped off the platform and sat down on the edge facing Hewson. And then he nodded and smiled, and he said, "Good evening." He spoke in perfect English with only a trace of foreign accent. I need hardly tell you that not until I overheard the conversation between you and the worthy manager of this establishment did I suspect that I should have the pleasure of a companion here for the night. Now, you cannot move or speak without my bidding, but you can hear me perfectly well. Now, something tells me that you are, shall I say, nervous? My dear sir, have no illusions. I am not one of these contemptible effigies miraculously come to life. I am Dr. Burdett himself. Let me explain. Circumstances with which I need not fatigue you have made it desirable that I should live in England. I was close to this building this evening when I saw a policeman regarding me a bit too curiously. So I mingled with the crowd, and I came in here, and an inspiration showed me a certain means of escape. I raised a cry of fire, and when all the fools had rushed up the stairs, I stripped my effigy of the caped coat, which you behold me wearing. I donned it, I hid my effigy under the platform at the back, and I took its place on the pedestal. I own that I have spent a very fatiguing evening, but fortunately I was not always being watched and had opportunities to draw an occasional deep breath and ease the rigidity of my pose. Oh, one small boy screamed and exclaimed that he saw me moving. I understood that he was to be whipped and put straight to bed on his return home, and I can only hope that the threat has been executed to the letter. I am obliged to the chance which brought us together tonight, and perhaps it would seem ungrateful to complain. From motives of personal safety, my activities have been somewhat curtailed of late years, and I am glad of this opportunity of gratifying my somewhat unusual whim. But you have a skinny neck, sir, if you will overlook a personal remark. I should never have selected you from choice. I like men with thick necks, thick red necks. This, which I have in my hand, is a little French razor. They're not much used in England, but perhaps you know them? Yes, one strops them on wood. The blade, you will observe, is very narrow. They do not cut very deep, but deep enough. In just one little moment you will see for yourself. Now, my friend, you will have the goodness to raise your chin a little. Oh, thank you. A little more. Just a little more. Ah, thank you. Merci, monsieur. Ah, merci, merci. In the morning, the sunrise began to mingle with subdued light from the electric bulbs. And this mingled illumination added a certain ghastliness to a scene which needed no additional touch of horror. The waxwork figures stood apathetically in their places. In their midst, on the center gangway, Hewson sat still, leaning far back in his armchair. His chin was up-tilted, as if he were waiting to receive attention from a barber. And although there was not a scratch upon his throat, nor anywhere on his body, he was cold and dead. His previous employers were wrong in having him credited with no imagination. Dr. Burdett, on his pedestal, watched the dead man unemotionally. He didn't move, nor had he moved. After all, how could he? He was only a waxwork.
And that was Nelson Olmsted and the story The Waxwork by A.M. Burridge. And now you have a second tale for us?
Indeed, I have been. You know, the human mind reacts peculiarly under great stress, especially when overcome with fear. It ceases to be normal and goads the body onto fantastic acts of bravery or cowardice. Ambrose Bierce expressed this condition in many of his fine short stories. And the narrative I want to bring you now is about a man whose great fear was the last reaction of his life. It's entitled The Man and the Snake. Stretched at ease upon a sofa in gown and slippers, Harker Brayton smiled as he read from Morrister's Marvels of Science. It was an ancient book with its archaic English, which stated, "It is a veritable report, and attested of so many, that there be now of wise and learned none to gainsay it, that ye serpent, his eye, hath the magnetic property, that whoso falleth into its suasion is drawn forwards in despite of his will, and perisheth miserable by ye creature his bite." Brayton smiled again as he thought, the only marvel in the matter is that the wise and learned in Morrister's day should have believed that snakes could hypnotize their human victims. And a train of reflection followed. For Brayton was a man of thought, and he unconsciously lowered his book without altering the direction of his eyes. As soon as the volume had gone below the line of sight, something in an obscure corner of the room recalled his attention to his surroundings. What he saw, in the shadow under his bed, was two small points of light, apparently about an inch apart. They might have been reflections of the gas jet above him in metal nail heads. He gave them but little thought and resumed his reading. A moment later, some impulse, which it didn't occur to him to analyze, impelled him to lower the book again and look for what he saw before. The points of light were still there. They seemed to have become brighter than before, shining with a greenish luster that he had not at first observed. He thought, too, that they might have moved a trifle, were somewhat nearer. They were still too much in the shadow, however, to reveal their nature and origin to an indolent attention. And again he resumed his reading. Suddenly, something in the text suggested a thought that made him start and drop the book for the third time to the side of the sofa, where, escaping from his hand, it fell sprawling to the floor, back upward. Brayton, half risen, was staring intently into the obscurity beneath the bed, where the points of light shone with, it seemed to him, an added fire. His attention was now fully aroused, his gaze eager and imperative. It disclosed almost directly under the footrail of the bed the coils of a large serpent. The points of light were its eyes. Its horrible head, thrust flatly forth from the innermost coil and resting upon the outermost, was directed straight toward him. The definition of the wide, brutal jaw and the idiot-like forehead serving to show the direction of its malevolent gaze. The eyes were no longer merely luminous points. They looked into his own with a meaning, a malign significance. A snake in a bedroom of a modern city dwelling of the better sort is happily not so common a phenomenon as to make explanation altogether needless. Harker Brayton, a bachelor of 35, returning to San Francisco from all manner of remote and unfamiliar countries, had gladly accepted the hospitality of his friend, Dr. Druring, the distinguished scientist. Dr. Druring's house, a large, old-fashioned one in what is now an obscure quarter of the city, had an outer and visible aspect of proud reserve. It plainly would not associate with the contiguous elements of its altered environment, and appeared to have developed some of the eccentricities which come of isolation. One of these was a wing, which was a combination of laboratory, menagerie, and museum. It was here that the doctor indulged the scientific side of his nature in the study of reptiles. He loved nature's vulgarians and described himself as the Zola of zoology. His wife and daughters, not having the advantage to share his enlightened curiosity regarding the works and ways of our ill-starred fellow creatures, were with needless austerity excluded from what he called the snakery. Architecturally, And in point of furnishing, the snakery had a severe simplicity befitting the humble circumstances of its occupants, many of whom, indeed, could not safely have been entrusted with the liberty that is necessary to the full enjoyment of luxury, for they had the troublesome peculiarity of being alive. In their own apartments, however, they were under as little personal restraint as was compatible with their protection from the baneful habit of swallowing one another. And as Brayton had thoughtfully been appraised, it was more than a tradition that some of them had at divers times been found in parts of the premises where it would have embarrassed them to explain their presence. Despite the snakery and its uncanny associations, to which indeed he gave little attention, Brayton found life at the Druring mansion very much to his mind. Beyond a smart shock of surprise and a shudder of mere loathing, Mr. Brayton was not greatly affected by the sight of the huge snake under his bed. His first thought was to ring the call bell and bring a servant. But although the bell cord dangled within easy reach, he made no movement toward it. It had occurred to his mind that the act might subject him to the suspicion of fear, which he certainly didn't feel. He was more keenly conscious of the incongruous nature of the situation than affected by its peril. It was revolting, but absurd. The reptile was of a species with which Brayton was unfamiliar. Its length he could only conjecture. The body, at the largest visible part, seemed about as thick as his forearm. In what way was it dangerous, if in any way? Was it venomous? Was it a constrictor? He didn't know. Brayton rose to his feet and prepared to back softly away from the snake without disturbing it if possible, and through the door. Should the monster follow, a rack of murderous Oriental weapons hung in the wall, from which he would snatch one to suit the occasion. Brayton lifted his right foot free of the floor to step backward. That moment, he felt a strong aversion to doing so. He lifted the foot a little higher by slightly bending the knee and thrust it sharply to the floor, an inch in front of the other. He couldn't think how that occurred. A trial with the left foot had the same result. It was again in advance of the right. His hand was grasping the back of a chair, the arm was straight, reaching somewhat backward. One might have said he was reluctant to lose his hold. The snake's malignant head was still thrust from the inner coil as before, the neck level. It hadn't moved, but its eyes were now electric sparks radiating an infinity of luminous needles. Brayton had an ashy pallor. Again, he took a step forward, and another, causing his hand to knock the chair over with a crash. The man groaned. The snake made neither sound nor motion, but its eyes were two dazzling suns. The reptile itself was wholly concealed by them. They gave off enlarging rings of rich and vivid colors, which at their greatest expansion successively vanished like soap bubbles. They seemed to approach his very face and again were an immeasurable distance away. He heard somewhere the continued throbbing of a great drum, with desultory bursts of far music, inconceivably sweet, like the tones of an Aeolian harp. He knew it was the sunrise melody of Memnon's statue, as though he stood in the Nile-side reeds, hearing with exalted sense that immortal anthem through the silence of the centuries. The music ceased. Rather, it became, by insensible degrees, the distant roll of a retreating thunderstorm. A landscape glittering with sun and rain stretched before him, arched with a vivid rainbow, framing in its giant curve 100 visible cities. In the middle distance, a vast serpent wearing a crown reared its head out of its voluminous convolutions and looked at him with his dead mother's eyes. Suddenly, this enchanting landscape vanished into blank. Something struck him a hard blow upon the face and breast. He had fallen on the floor. The blood ran from his broken nose and his bruised lips. For a moment, he was dazed and stunned and lay with closed eyes, his face against the floor. In a few moments, he had recovered and then realized that his fall, by withdrawing his eyes, had broken the spell which held him. He felt that now, by keeping his gaze averted, he would be able to retreat. But the thought of the serpent within a few feet of his head, yet unseen, perhaps in the very act of springing upon him and throwing its coils around his throat, was too horrible. He lifted his head, stared again into those baleful eyes, and was again in bondage. What ensued was a fearful scene. The man, prone upon the floor, within a yard of his enemy, raised the upper part of his body upon his elbows, his head thrown back, his legs extended to their full length. His face was white between its gouts of blood. His eyes were strained open to their uttermost expansion. There was froth upon his lips. It dropped off in flakes. Strong convulsions ran through his body, making almost serpentine undulations. He bent himself at the waist, shifting his legs from side to side, and every movement left him a little nearer to the snake. He thrust his hands forward to brace himself back, yet constantly he advanced upon his elbows. Dr. Druring and his wife were at this moment in the library. Their conversation was interrupted by a mighty cry which rang through the silent house like the voice of a demon shouting in a tomb. Again, and yet again it sounded with terrible distinctness. They sprang to their feet, the man confused, the lady pale and speechless with fright. Almost before the echoes of the last cry had died away, the doctor was out of the room, springing up the staircase 2 steps at a time. In the corridor in front of Brayton's chamber, he met some servants who had come from the upper floor. Together they rushed at the door without knocking. It was unfastened and gave way. Brayton lay upon his stomach on the floor, dead. His head and arms were partly concealed under the footrail of the bed. They pulled the body away, turning it upon the back. The face was daubed with blood and froth. The eyes were wide open, staring, a dreadful sight. Well, he died in a fit, said the scientist, bending his knee and placing his hand upon the heart. And while in that position, he happened to glance under the bed. Well, good Lord, how did this thing get in here? And he reached under the bed, pulled out the snake, and flung it, still coiled, to the center of the room, where it slid across the polished floor till stopped by the wall, where it lay without motion. It was a stuffed snake. Its eyes were 2 shoe buttons.
You can turn up the lights now. You can look around you. Nobody is there, really. Everything is all right, isn't it? Now here is Nelson Olmsted to tell us about next week. Mr. Olmsted.
Well, Ben, 2 ghost stories. One is by Christopher Isherwood, about a man who, for reasons he doesn't understand, is able to get brief glimpses into the future. It's entitled, I Am Waiting. The second, Browdian Farm by A.M. Burridge, might best be described as an old-fashioned ghost story about a haunted house.
You have been listening to Sleep No More, an NBC Radio Network production directed by Kenneth McGregor. Mr. Olmsted's albums are recorded exclusively for Vanguard Records. Until next week, when Nelson Olmsted will again be here in person, this is Ben Grauer bidding you good night.
Good evening, friends of the creaking door. This is your host to welcome you into the inner sanctum. Come in, come in. I always feel lighthearted in weather like this, so perhaps we ought to have a little poetry before we begin. An Arab girl named Yuhim was lied to by her husband, Menuhim. For this little trifle, she shot him with a rifle, and now she can see right through him. And now, if your scalpels are sharpened and ready, we will proceed with the business of the evening. Tonight we're going to do a little study in terror. Have you ever been alone with fear? Alone in the night and frightened? Well, here is our star, Agnes Moorehead, in the role of Linda Dixon. who will tell us a tale of terror by night.
It was Friday night, and I think I was already a little nervous as I drove north into the mountains. I hadn't wanted to waste even an hour of my 2-week vacation, so I'd had all my bags packed and the car waiting at the curb in front of my office building. Everything would have been all right if the fuel pump in my 6-year-old car hadn't acted up. It took the mechanic almost 2 hours to get me going. So now I was driving through the night with 50 miles more to go, and I was tired and nervous and irritated. And then I heard the whistle in the distance. At first I couldn't place it. And then I remembered the state prison was somewhere in the vicinity. The whistle. It meant a prisoner had escaped. I reached over and turned on the radio. Maybe they were broadcasting something about it.
Motorists are warned to be on the lookout for Lee Hartley, who escaped from the death cell at state prison at 9:15 p.m. Tall, dark-haired, regular features, no distinguishing marks. Hartley is a confirmed killer. He is believed to be armed. Beware of Hartley. He would rather kill than eat.
He would rather kill than eat. And that man was loose, perhaps waiting around the next bend in the road.
Hartley was helped to escape from the outside by his sweetheart, Helen Hearn, a red-headed woman just as vicious as Hartley himself. It is thought that Hartley and the Hearn woman may have separated after the escape. All motorists are warned to beware of a dark-haired man and a red-haired woman alone or together.
My hand was shaking a little as I turned off the radio. I looked in the car mirror and shivered. I, too, have red hair. There was a storm coming on, and I was driving into it, and the night was black, and I felt small and lonely and frightened in the car. And then I saw them in the mirror, the headlights sweeping up behind me. A car. It had come out of nowhere. It was pulling alongside, cutting me off. I cowered behind the wheel and watched the door of that other car open. A man stepped out. Oh, and I breathed a sigh of relief. It was a state trooper.
You driving all alone, miss?
Yes, officer.
Sorry if I scared you. We're stopping all cars. Where are you headed for?
Well, I'm going up to the lodge at Smuggler's Notch. That's near Mount Mansfield. You see, I started out late from the city, and I'm having motor trouble.
Yeah, sure. Can I see your driver's license, please?
My driver's license? Yes, of course. Here, I've got it somewhere in my purse. I seem to be all fingers. It's that escaped prisoner, Hartley.
How'd you know about him?
I heard the prison whistle, and then it came over the radio about Hartley and his red-haired girlfriend.
Hey, you've got red hair, too.
Oh, you don't think I'm that woman?
Find that license yet?
Oh, yes, I'm sure it's in here. There's so many things in this bag. Oh, here, I've got it. Here's my license.
Thanks. What time did you say you left the city?
About 5 o'clock.
It took you a long time to get up this far.
Well, I told you I had motor trouble.
So you did. Okay, Miss Dixon, here's your license.
Thank you.
You can go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, darn. There it goes again.
More motor trouble.
Oh, it's the same thing. The mechanic said it might happen again. Oh, it started.
You want to get that fixed? First chance you get.
Oh, it's too late. All the service stations are closed.
Well, there's one that's open all night, about 2 miles up the road. Better stop there. Bill Slater's place. He's a good mechanic. He'll fix you up. Tell him Joe Nesbitt sent you.
Thanks, I will.
And listen, Miss Dixon.
Yes?
You be careful. Don't stop to give anyone a lift, man or woman.
Oh, don't worry. I won't. In a few minutes, I saw the lights of the station. I swung into the open space in front of the pumps and stopped. There was another car, a coupe, parked at the pump, but there was nobody in it. And I didn't see any attendant around either. I pressed the horn button. No one answered. Everything seemed so quiet. And suddenly ominous. I found myself shivering. I had a curious feeling that someone was watching me. I had to get away from there. Fast. Oh, the starter wouldn't work again. again. Oh, it won't stop. Oh, it won't stop. For a long time, I sat behind the wheel listening for the sound of footsteps stealing up behind the car. But there were none. Then I could bear it no longer. I had to get out of the car. I had to see what was in that office. I opened the door of the car and stepped down on the gravel. Anybody in there? No answer. I clenched my fists and stepped inside. There on the floor at my feet lay the body of a man. His mechanic's jumper was stained red. And his throat was cut. How long I stood there, I'll never know. I was petrified. Unable to move, unable to take my eyes from the body. What's that? Someone coming downstairs. Hartley. It must be Hartley, the killer. He must have been hiding somewhere upstairs. I must get away. But how? My car won't run. That other car, the coupe. The coupe, I could jump into that, yes. Oh, if I can reach that coupe before he comes down.
Anything wrong, sister?
Oh, too late.
Anything I can do for you, sister?
Yes, it's my car. It won't start. I thought someone here might help me.
Sorry. There doesn't seem to be anybody around. That's my coupe over there. I stopped for gas and no one came out, so I went in and looked around.
But did you find anybody?
There isn't a living soul in there.
Oh.
You look kind of tired.
No, I'm all right.
My name is Taylor. John Taylor.
I'm Linda Dixon.
Linda Dixon, hmm? Glad to know you. You traveling far tonight?
I'm going to Mount Mansfield, to the lodge at Smuggler's Notch. They're expecting me.
Well, what do you know about that?
What?
Mount Mansfield is the place I'm heading for, too. Isn't that a coincidence?
I'm sure it is.
And your car won't run, huh? I'll tell you what. We'll put your baggage in my car, and I'll give you a lift to Mount Mansfield. You can send for your car in the morning.
No.
I'll have your bag switched in a jiff.
Please, no, I'd rather not.
There you are. All switched. Now, come on. Get in here.
We drove away into the night, leaving behind us the dead man in the service station.
Well, from where we sit, it looks as if Linda Dixon's got herself into an awful jam. And believe me, she's shaking like jelly. Now, let's see how our star Agnes Moorehead in the role of Linda Dixon is making out. All alone in a car with a strange man. But after all, she shouldn't be too scared of him. He's just a felon who needs a friend.
I sat stiff and tense beside the man who called himself John Taylor. He had both hands on the wheel, and he stared out through the windshield. My eyes focused on something on his right hand. It was a stain, a small stain, but it was wet and red. I couldn't take my eyes off it.
What are you looking at?
What? Oh, nothing at all.
I think I'll turn on the radio. Did you know there's been a jailbreak?
5'10". Very dark hair. Don't be fooled by his pleasant manner. He is a killer by instinct.
A killer by
He is
instinct.
a killer by
I looked at the man
instinct
beside
and
me.
very dangerous. He is accompanied by Helen Hearn. Helen Hearn is a clever and dangerous woman. 5'3", red hair, very pretty.
I caught Taylor looking at me out of the corner of his eye. What are you looking at?
At your hair. It's red.
There was a streak of lightning, and looking out of the rain-swept window, I glimpsed a signpost. The lightning illuminated the sign, and my heart skipped a beat at what I saw. That sign we just passed.
What about it?
It said Barrington ahead. We're going the wrong way. We should be on the Mansfield Road, not the Barrington Road.
That's funny. I must have taken the wrong turn.
Well, aren't you going to turn back?
Sure. Whatever you say. We'll turn right around and go back.
Oh.
We're in the ditch.
In the ditch. Oh.
No good. She won't budge. Well, looks like we're stuck here for the night.
I think I'd better get out and walk. Perhaps there's a house nearby.
Walk in this weather?
I don't mind the weather, really, I don't.
You can't walk in this storm. You're staying right here until I get the car out of the ditch. I've got some tools in the trunk compartment. You stay put.
I heard him open the trunk in the back. I listened for further sounds, but there was nothing. I didn't hear him moving back there. I didn't hear any tools. I had to find out what he was doing. Slowly, carefully, I got my door open. I stepped out into the rain and sneaked back toward the rear. I saw him there, not moving, in front of the open trunk compartment, bending over with a flashlight in his hand. The ray of light was focused on something curled up inside. It wasn't baggage or tools. It was a woman's body. Just then he saw me. He snapped the flashlight off, but not before I caught a glimpse of red hair. Then I must have fainted. When I came to, I found myself seated inside the car again. The storm was over. The night was quiet.
Oh, so you're awake again.
I don't feel well.
Is it because of what's in the trunk compartment?
Oh, she's dead.
I told you not to get out of the car.
What are you going to do with me?
What do you think?
They say that when a person loses all hope, he subconsciously seeks refuge in sleep. That's what must have happened to me. I must have dozed, or perhaps I fainted, I don't know. But I awoke with a start at the sound of brakes. I sat up straight and saw that we had stopped in front of a small fieldstone house. Why are we stopping here?
I'm out of gas.
Oh.
Come on. We're going in.
The sign on the door said Roger Bryce, M.D., a doctor's house. I began to feel a spark of hope. There might be a chance.
I'll do the talking. Is that clear?
Yes.
There's the bell. Oh. He must be awake. There's a light in the parlor.
How do you do?
Oh, good evening. Dr. Bryce?
Yes. Can I help you?
I'm terribly sorry to disturb you, Doctor, but my sister and I were heading for Mansfield, and we seem to have gotten lost. And we're out of gas.
His sister. He was passing us off as brother and sister. Now I knew why he hadn't cut my throat as he had that service station man's. He was carrying me for protection. I was his passport through the police cordon. His sister.
But I'm afraid I can't be of much help to you. I'm 7 miles from the nearest town, and I haven't any spare gasoline. But come in, won't you?
Why, yes, thank you, we will.
I wonder if I could offer you my hospitality for the night.
Oh, that would be imposing.
Not at all. I have 2 rooms that aren't being used.
Well, really...
Oh, come, I insist.
I had hoped for a chance to talk to Dr. Bryce alone, just a word to warn him. But Taylor never left us alone for a minute. He insisted on coming into my room to make sure, he said, that it was comfortable enough for me. Then he took the doctor by the arm and went out with him.
Good night, sis. And sweet dreams.
I was alone, free of the presence of John Taylor. I had another lease on life. I lay down on the bed, but I didn't dare close my eyes. I waited, my heart pounding to give them both a chance to retire. And I slipped off my shoes and got off the bed in my stocking feet. I stole across the room and inched my door open. Slowly, carefully, I stepped out into the corridor and turned right toward the doctor's room.
What's the matter, sister? Sleepwalking? You weren't thinking of going anywhere, sister, were you?
I wanted a drink of water.
A drink of water, huh? In case you didn't know it, there's a water pitcher on your dresser.
Oh, well, I didn't see it.
Good night, sister.
I turned around and went back into my room. It was no use. I lay down on the bed. How long I lay there, I don't know. Perhaps I slept, perhaps not, but I heard that slight creak as my door began to inch open. The blood chilled in my veins. Vaguely, I saw the outline of the hand and the knife it held. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Slowly, he came toward the bed. Now he stands over me. He raises the knife. I screamed and rolled over on the bed just as the knife slashed down. I rolled off the bed and cowered in a corner. That horrible figure came around the bed after me with a knife upraised. Help! Dr. Bryce! Help me! Help me! While I cowered there in the corner, they fought all over the room in the dark. I had no strength to move, to think, not even to hope. All the life seemed to have gone dead in my veins. And then it was over. But who had won? In the dark, I strained my eyes to see. Dr. Bryce. Is that you?
No, Linda. It isn't Dr. Bryce. It's I. John Taylor.
It was John Taylor standing there at the light switch. And on the floor lay Dr. Bryce, unconscious, with a long gash in his head.
I had to hit him with a water pitcher.
My eyes swung back to Dr. Bryce, and I saw the knife still gripped in his right hand.
That's Hartley, Linda.
What?
Lee Hartley, the killer.
It was he who came in here with the knife?
Right. I was down the cellar just now. The real Dr. Bryce is down there, dead.
Oh.
This guy posed as Bryce when we came to the house.
Oh, then you're not Hartley.
Oh, what a situation. All the time you thought I was Lee Hartley, and I thought you were Helen Hearn on account of your red hair.
Oh, but the body of that red-haired woman.
That's Helen Hearn.
Oh.
This guy must have killed her back at the service station and stuffed her body in my trunk compartment while I was inside.
That all happened last summer. In time, I think I'll manage to forget that night of terror. But it won't be soon. Sometimes in the night I dream that I see that awful figure with the knife poised above my throat. And I wake up screaming. But then John takes me in his arms and holds me tight and tells me that everything is all right. You see, I'm Mrs. John Taylor now.
what do you know? A happy ending. As for Mr. Hartley, that pleasant killer, he got what he deserved. Some people never know when they're well off. He should have stayed in jail, where they never raise your rent, where they make no charge for meals or for electric current. You see, when you're in jail, everything is free. Except you. Well, friends, it's time once again to close that creaking door. Until next week at this same time, when we'll be back with a little hunk of horror. You'll be sure to listen, won't you? Until next week, then. Good night. Pleasant dreams.
Inner Sanctum has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.